Hey yo guys, welcome to Two Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we got an album review of Blood Mountain by Mastodon. Hey guys, so as you can see, we have a guest today. This is Mr. Burger. And Mr. Burger is not a metalhead. He does not like heavy metal pretty much in any way, shape, or form. Is that right?
A couple songs you show me, but normally no, I don't like it. I like Beyonce, Michael Jackson, pop, typical stuff.
Yeah. But he agreed to experiment a little bit, step out of his comfort zone, and come here with us and review this album. We thought this would be a good album for him to review. He actually chose this album. We gave him a few different ones to select, to choose from, and he chose this one.
It spoke to me a bit.
Based off of the single, which is The Wolf is Loose. But yeah, we're going to see what he says. But that's going to be in a minute. I'm going to pass the floor to TV Fish. We're going to get his impressions of Blood Mountain first. So TV Fish, take the floor. Go ahead.
Alright, so Mastodon, in my opinion, never puts out a bad album. I'm going to say that now because this album is just completely in line with everything else. This is a great album. I feel it's a very good album that gives an example of what this band's about. I feel that this album is really good for getting into the band because of songs that are very hard-hitting, very remind you of like Remission and Leviathan, songs like The Wolf is Loose, but songs that also are a lot more atmospheric, like Pendulous Skin or this Mortal Soil. But I'm going to start with my least favorite song because we always like to end on a high note, which was Siberian Divide. I've been listening to this album for a while, and that song was always a song that I'd never remember. It would never really stick to me every time I heard this album. And even, when we gave a little bit of a listening session today, I looked at the track listing, I'm like, what is that one again? All of the songs, I could be like, yeah, that one goes like that, it goes like that, like that. But this one really wouldn't stick to me.
It's a bit forgettable.
Yeah, it's it has this like weird kind of screaming thing going on partway through that comes back a little bit, which was unique. You don't really hear that anywhere else. But other than that, like, it doesn't have much that's really gripping me. So that's pretty much probably the only forgettable song in this album, in my opinion. Because other than that, like, everything is notable. And my favorite, I had a few favorites, but the one I'd like to talk about is the last track on the album, Pendulous Skin. This
Awesome
album,
song.
it starts a little creepy,
Yep.
but then
Nothing wrong with
the world opens to you. As you described when we listened to this, it's like a dome of atmosphere around you. There's so many sounds going on, it's hard to pick them out individually, but they all create such a nice enveloping atmosphere for the listener, and it's beautiful. Mastodon does this a lot with their final tracks of albums. Very relaxing, a kind of nice easing way out of the album. Very, very nice sounding. It's just, I listen to this, I'm like, wow, I could like dream to this. I could put this on and just go right to sleep. And
It's almost like
amazing.
listening to a dream sequence is going on.
Yeah, it's amazing. I felt that song was so incredibly done. There's like a nice guitar solo in it that's tasteful, incredibly crafted song. So, what were your highlights and lowlights of the album?
I love this album. I love Mastodon. I'm a big fan of Mastodon. My favorite song, probably not just on this album, but one of my favorite Mastodon songs out of all of them is Colony of Birchmen. Right? Now this song, it just speaks to me in a way. I don't exactly know what it is. I don't even know what the lyrics are about, and I honestly don't care. The song, it just speaks to me in a way that just gets me in a mood. It's just such a positive for me. The rhythms on this album, the grooves on this album are top notch. The guitar work, the drum work, everything is top notch. It's one of those albums where I write the same notes for every song, but they're good notes. You know what I mean? It's very consistent, very well written. And then you got the odd songs like this, Mortal Soil and Pendulous Skin, like you mentioned, that change up the atmosphere, change up the whole mood and feeling of the album, but are still within the same vein. So it's not like it's a different band altogether or anything like that. You're still hearing those Mastodon grooves and that Mastodon flavor, which I love. But Colony of Birchmen, for some reason, just reaches out to me. I think the vocal performances by both Brent and Troy on that song are amazing. They're also awesome throughout the album. I mean, it's hard to really take one song and say everything is good about this song because it's good in every song, really. But just certain songs do it a little better. The only thing that I not that I don't like it about Colony of Birchmen, but it would be a perfect song if the solo was a little better. That's the only slight disappointment I have for that song, is the solo was a little bit underwhelming for me. And I like my solos. It's not bad, but it could have been a little bit more on the epic side for me for it to be a perfect song for me.
Yeah, it fits the atmosphere pretty well, but it doesn't really have that much of a punch to it.
As far as things I don't like about the album, that's a slim list. But I think Blade Catcher is a little bit too on the bizarre side. It's a cool, like, little experimental, weird kind of song, and there's some really cool parts in Blade Catcher, but it's just a little too weird when there's like that weird. It's like Donald Duck getting strangled or something. Like, I really don't. You know what I'm talking about? That part,
Like
right?
you're playing
Like,
Frogger or something.
yeah, and it's like, I don't know what it is, but it's not, to me it sounds like Donald Duck getting strangled. That's all I can picture when I'm hearing it. It's very, very odd, but also one of my favorite parts on the entire album is also on Blade Catcher. And there's two, it happens twice, and it's the drum rolls. There's a drum roll, you know, at one section at the end, and there's right toward the end of the song, there's another drum roll. Super long drum rolls, a lot of notes, just really epic, really cool, really, really good stuff. But now I'm interested to hear what Mr. Berger has to say. So Mr. Berger, if you can remember any of the songs, you got your notes there, what did you think?
I can remember some stuff.
Alright.
Okay, so anytime I've ever had to listen to heavy metal, which I have friends that listen to it, so I've heard a lot of it, I always say it sounds the same to me. So anytime I'm listening to it, I try to find something that sounds different, doesn't sound like that heavy metal, noisy sound I'm always referring to. So I like Sleeping Giant a lot, because there was something melodic about it. I found it had like an epic build. There was it felt like it was raising to something. It wasn't just noise, it was coming to a head. I found when he was singing, the voice blended with that build up. It didn't seem to go against it or be overpowered by it. And there was a really cool like break in the middle that took me on a journey. I thought it went a little long, but other than that, it was one of my favorites. Going through it, I liked the first half of the album a lot. I found there was a lot of differences, but towards the end, which became hard for me, is I found that started to happen where every song began to sound the same. I couldn't like tell them apart, and I started to say that in the notes. You know, this kind of sound like the last one. I can't seem to find a rhythm anymore until the last one, which they both already spoke about. But that Pendulum Skin, it was beautiful. Like I said, it was an acid trip, and it was just, it took you on this journey. And what was good for me, the same with Blade Catcher, why I like Blade Catcher as well, is they are very different from the rest of the album. So when you're someone who doesn't really like heavy metal and you're hearing that same too noisy, I keep referring to, songs like Blade Catcher with those weird synth sounds and the weird Donald Duck getting choked, it was just refreshing to me because of what I've been listening to, and the same happened with Pendulum Skin. It was very refreshing compared to the rest of the album.
It's interesting how you say that you started writing the same notes for a lot of the songs, which I said the same thing. I was writing the same notes for a lot of the songs. But one thing we talked about earlier is that me and TV Fish and I, we know more about metal, so we know the technicality behind it. We know what's going into the songs and the instruments and stuff like that. You really don't know what's going on when they're shredding on guitar.
Right.
You just really don't know what's going on, or when they're, doing time signature changes, or when the drums are rolling and they're doing crazy stuff.
I can't find the rhythm.
You can't find the rhythm.
Yeah.
But you
I'm used to
lose the
pop
rhythm,
music, yep.
and pop music's structured a certain way and all that stuff. So it's interesting that we wrote similar things in our notes. Same notes for each song, but you had more of a negative aspect to it, and mine was more positive, more of like a consistency thing, which I enjoy, consistency in my music.
Yeah.
But it's time for ratings. So just to preface this a little bit, this is still only two toe tags up for grabs. There's no three toe tags. He's still gonna rate it out of 10, but it's just me and TV Fish.
Like in terms of toe tag,
Yeah.
it can only come from us.
But TV Fish, go for it.
So, I've already talked a lot of praise about this album, and there's only one song, which was Siberian Divide, that I could say is kind of forgettable. Everything else has something about it that's memorable, and I feel like I've been listening to this album for a long time, and every time I hear it, every song, I'm just like, oh yeah, this one's badass, this one's badass. So for how memorable this album is, it gets my toe tag, because I feel that even, with a non-metalhead, there are parts that are still jumping out. So for those that are into metal but aren't into Mastodon, I feel like you should definitely check this album out, because I feel it gives you everything that this band's about in one nice little package. So what do you rate it?
I'm gonna let Mr. Berger give his rating first, and then I'll close it off here.
I agree with Fish to an extent that, you know, as a non-listener, it wasn't hell for me to sit through it. You know, it really wasn't. There were a lot of songs where I could really get into it, and I find a lot of times if I ever have to listen to heavy metal, I just have to like put it out. And this time, you know, whether it be a cool drum solo, guitar riff, whatever it was, I had moments a lot of the times in the album where I was like, you know what? So as a non-listener. So if I rate it as a pop music lover, I would give it something low, of course, because it's not my style of music. So that rating would be like, I don't know, 4 or 5. But if I try to pretend like I'm a heavy metal listener, I'd give it a 7.
7 to score?
7 to score, yeah.
That's pretty good. You rolled a lot more than I thought you would. That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
You know, I have been listening to this album since it came out on day one. I've listened to this album many, many times. It's one of my favorites. So, I mean, you know, Fish, you said there's a song you don't really like. Even though Siberian Divide is not the greatest song on the album, I still really like the song. There's nothing bad about any song except, you know, a few minor things here and there, a few minor things that maybe stand out a little bit and maybe put a little bit of a salty taste in your mouth because they don't quite blend in. But that's almost what brings it the charm that it has. So I like too many songs on this album. I like this album too much to not give it a toe tag. It definitely gets a toe tag for me. This is an easy choice. There's, you know, I can go back to this album anytime, listen to the entire thing, not get bored, love every second of it, and just really enjoy myself. This is a solid album from a solid band. Mastodon does not make bad music. This album now gets 2 toe tags. It'll be added to our list, plus a 7 out of 10 from a non-metalhead. So what more do you want from that?
Exactly. That's pretty up there across the board.
Yeah. So yeah, you guys gotta check this album out. If you guys aren't into Mastodon, this is probably a good album to get started. If you guys are interested in maybe checking it out, very interesting band. They got a good variety of music, but it's always very consistent. You always get that Mastodon style, that Mastodon flavor, even though each album has its own individual flair, which is something very, very unique. A lot of bands can't really do that and still maintain a great sound. Mastodon is awesome. So, but that's pretty much it. You guys want to add anything before we close this off?
No.
I'm the non-listener. I got nothing to add.
Well, that's it. He took the words out of my mouth. Check this album out. It's amazing. That's all we got for today. Guys, thanks for watching. Remember to like if you like this video. Comment. Tell us what you think of Blood Mountain. Tell us what you think of the other Mastodon albums. And subscribe if you really liked us. I'm TV Fish.
I'm Vile Self.
Guest star Mr. Burger.
Guest star Mr. Burger. We'll see you guys on the next one. Later.